Hello everybody, this is Lukinator 23, and I've always loved the cartoony type of characters, and so today, I'm going to be teaching you guys some of the history of Banjo and Kazooie. Now that they're in Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, and some people have never played their games, I'll give you guys a little brief history of their first games, all the way up to where they are now in Super Smash Bros. Ultimate. And so, I'll just go and say, I was never always a fan. When they were first announced as Smash characters, I was a little bit upset because I did not know the characters, but then when I started playing the games, I was like, this is actually really fun. And so from there on, I'm a Banjo fan now. I will probably, if they ever make a remake, I'll probably get it if they make it for the Switch, but that's enough talk about that. So let's start off with some of the inspirations for the characters. So, turns out, Banjo and Kazooie actually were inspired by the instruments banjo and a kazoo. They could not get the name for a kazoo, so they changed the name to Kazooie, which is actually pretty funny. Yeah, I guess you have to be creative if you want to change the name. But their game actually wasn't ever supposed to be released. In fact, it was supposed to be an RPG, which I cannot remember the name of, but it was about this kid who went on this adventure and had a magical dog. Well, no, it's not Adventure Time, guys, so, but the game went with so many different beta versions. There were some complaints like, oh, the game, like, the human looks weird, so they changed it up to Banjo's design. Then, they said, oh, the character can't jump, so they added Kazoo. Well, long story short, the game was a complete failure within, like, the development team, so they just canceled the game, like, didn't even release it. So, I guess that would be a good call, because if they would have released the RPG, we would have seen Banjo and Kazooie in more, less Super Mario style, if you will. This was all supposed to be during the release of Diddy Kong Racing, which is basically like a Mario Kart. What I've heard is fun, but this is Banjo's first appearance in that game. So, from what I remember, they were still working on the character Banjo at this time, and Rare, which was a part of Nintendo at the time, wanted to see this character in Diddy Kong Racing, so they put Banjo in the game before they added Kazoo. No, Kazooie, I should say. But yeah, then a year later, the first Banjo and Kazooie game was released and had a major success. It sold, I think, over 130,000 in the first few weeks. This game was one of the most well-known Nintendo 64 games. The game was about Tootie, which is Banjo's sister, who gets kidnapped by this evil witch Gruntilda. And you have to play as Banjo and Kazooie, and you have to team up and fight the evil forces of Gruntilda. And from there on, you meet these wacky, kooky characters like Mumbo Jumbo, Bottles the Mole, a few others, but the game was by far one of the most popular at the time. In fact, it became so popular at that time, in 2000 they announced and released a sequel to the game, which was titled Banjo-Tooie. The game pretty much continues where the first game left off, with Tootie being rescued by Banjo and Kazooie, and then, here's the crazy part. Supposedly, Gruntilda was dead after falling off of her lair's top building. She fell down a hole and got crushed by a boulder. Well, that boulder apparently did not kill her. In fact, it just made her into she just turned into like a half robot, I guess. She tries to destroy Bottles the Mole, which is the character who helps you out in the first game. And so from there on, you have to revisit Grunty's lair, I think, and fight brand new villains such as Klungo, Mr. Patch, and a few others. The game was not as good as the first one, in my opinion, from what I've seen in gameplay style. Graphics obviously improved. The game itself just looked funny, because there's a first-person shooter style, which, for people who don't know what first-person shooter style is, it's basically games where you play as this character, and they usually have a gun, but in this game, obviously, they did not have any guns. You use Kazooie as a gun. And they incorporated that move into Smash, which was by far very funny. There are 2 other games in the franchise. I think they were both like racing type of games. The crazy thing is they never came to Japan, which was pretty odd. But you guys may have not known this, but I think during this time, that time when they released the 2 games in the West, that this was when Microsoft was thinking about buying Rare out from Nintendo. And they ended up buying Rare, and now Rare is a former part of Microsoft. And from there on, it felt like Banjo-Kazooie were done. Like, after the 2 released games, they thought the franchise was done, like, complete. Well, a trailer came up in 2007, I think, and it showed Banjo-Kazooie, but not entirely in a way. Like, they did not stay classic to their old designs, which I found really, really weird. Then they announced Banjo-Kazooie Nuts and Bolts, which is their brand new adventure, and it released in 2008 on the Xbox 360. From what I've heard, this is the game that pretty much killed Banjo. Well, not literally, but, you know, like, the franchise itself died in a way. Like, they didn't make any new games after that. I don't know why, but, I'm glad that they brought Banjo back, but you need to still stay true to the designs. But yeah, I felt like they should have done that, and if they would have stuck to the original designs and just improved the graphics, that would have been a best-selling game. But gameplay style, like, you just build vehicles, and not a ton of people found that interesting. From there on, it felt like Microsoft was just shutting down Rare's, like, Banjo-Kazooies. And what I mean is, they did not have a single game after that, and it felt like they were gone for good, which some people were really saddened if that is actually the reason why. I mean, I heard there was so many complaints about Banjo and Kazooie Nuts and Bolts. I found it, like, fun, but not as fun as, like, the originals. So it felt like Rare was moving on from Banjo and going on with other projects, which I'm not going to name some of them. But in 2019, they announced the first time 2 major companies team up together. Super Smash Bros. Ultimate! It just felt like a really joyous occasion for tons of gamers whenever they saw their favorite Baron Bird come back, and not the Nuts and Bolts design. Whenever they announced this character joining the roster of one of the most well-known fighting games of all time right now, the internet exploded. Well, not literally, but people were really, really happy when they announced this. But it gets a little bit crazier because it seemed like Microsoft was talking like they said they feel like they want to be teaming up a lot more often. But yeah, I just cannot stop watching the Sakurai presentation whenever they went, more details into the fighter. Boy, wow, we did not know a lot of stuff going on. So it turns out Grant Kirkhope, the original composer for the music tracks, actually had no idea until like a month or 2 before the reveal trailer. And obviously he had to keep it a secret to compose, but turns out his son, who loved Banjo and loved Smash, found out about this, but promised he wouldn't tell anybody, and he kept that secret. And if I was him, yes, I would do the exact same thing. But, I mean, yeah, this was just by far one of the most crazy things that have happened in Super Smash Bros. Ultimate history. Now that Banjo and Kazooie are in Super Smash Bros., does this mean that Microsoft's going to bring the favorite Baron Bird back? I do not know. Nobody as of right now knows. Only Microsoft and Rare knows if they want to make a game or not. From what I'm feeling like is going to happen, yes, they are going to make a remake. But I think they're going to keep this Smash design, and they're going to keep the same gameplay style from the first game, maybe add a few more levels. Basically like what they did for the Super Mario 64 remake on the DS. I have a very strong feeling that's what's going to happen. And that's the end of the line so far for Banjo-Kazooie. Yeah, I really love the character now. I'm shocked that I did not play the games back when I was little. But yeah, they remind me a lot like the Mario franchise, and I just love it. And I hope you guys love this video. Please share, like, and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video. Take care. Gah-huh!